I get a vote today? This would be nice. I don't get a vote usually.
Good, I don't have to be the tiebreaker either. Are we ready?
I don't think, you are the tiebreaker.
No, tonight we got 5.
Oh, we only got 5 today?
Yeah.
Oh.
You're not the chair tonight?
What?
You're not the chair tonight?
I can be. Doesn't matter either way. Yeah, you want me to be chair?
Well, run with it, Andy. Do it.
Yeah, I'll let the co-chair be the chair.
And then take me golfing.
Just don't expect anything of me. I don't know what he's talking about.
I've already been told everything you do.
I got 2 or 3 guys that should go golfing with you guys.
Very good, really. I'm no good. Ready? All right. All right, we'd like to welcome everybody out to the Thursday, September 16th, 2021 Planning Commission meeting, the regular Planning Commission meeting. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'm assuming Angie Fugate will be leading that for us. I saw the post-it notes, I'm assuming. Please come forward and help us out.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Angie. Appreciate that. All right, we do have a full quorum tonight, and with that, I would like to ask if there are any conflicts of interest on today's agenda. Okay, seeing none, we do have a couple items that are up for public hearing, so as a part of that, I would like to just, review the public comment and policy procedure. The purpose of public comment is to allow citizens to address items on the agenda. Citizens requesting to address the commission will be asked to complete a written comment form and present that to Jackie tonight, our city recorder. And in general, the chair will allow an individual 2 minutes to address the commission. A spokesperson recognized as representing a group in attendance may be allowed up to 5 minutes. And this policy also applies to all public hearings. So with that, we will go ahead and jump into item 3.1 on the agenda, which is a request for approval of a conditional use of a comprehensive sign plan for Academy Village. I believe Sheldon, yeah, go ahead.
All right, good evening. I guess the first item on the agenda today is, I don't have anything on the screen here, so I'm going to kind of wing it for a second.
Yeah.
It's a comprehensive sign plan for Academy Village.
I don't think the mic's working. Is the mic on? Oh, it is.
Yeah, it is.
All right.
I'm not talking loud enough.
Oh.
Okay. Hope you have the switch. All right, as I mentioned earlier, this is a request and review for approval of the Village Mixed-Use Comprehensive Plan, which is located in the Academy Village. Applicant is Yesco. Charlie Taylor is their agent. I believe there's another representative here from Yesco as well as Alex from Commercial Development, the property owners. I got to turn this on here. There we go. Okay. As mentioned here, the site is located in the Academy Village up there off of Mountain View Corridor. The site itself is zoned C2 and MU mixed use. It has the VMU overlay captures those 2 pods there. What the applicant is requesting, or is actually requesting is, or proposing is a site plan showing 2 plant center signs, 6 monument signs, and 6 directional signs. For the plant center signs, this is just an example to kind of give you a scale of how their plant center signs compared to the signs located, the existing signs here for the Zions Bank Training Center. As you see there, Zions Bank's about 75 feet tall. They're proposing 60-foot tall plant center signs. Here's a little better breakdown of their signs, showing the height and et cetera. They are proposing digital displays on these signs. The VMU allows them to go up to 500 square feet. They're proposing 311 square feet. The VMU also states that they can't have any more than 800 square feet of sign surface per side. They're slightly under that requirement as well. We do have some concerns regarding the heights of the signs at this time, but we'll discuss that a little later here. The monument signs they're proposing, out of the 6 monument signs, they are proposing 2 monument signs with digital displays. Those signs are 6 feet tall. VMU has a maximum square footage of 75 square feet. They're proposing about 48 square feet per sign there. The additional 4 monument signs are just a static display, just your traditional monument sign with backlit signed copy. Those again are 6 feet tall and about 50 square feet. The directional signs are, they're proposing 6 directional signs. According to the VMU overlay, they can be no taller than 10 feet or over 30 square feet per sign base. These are well under that requirement. Looking at what they proposed and applying that towards our standards for conditional uses, we didn't find any issues that arose regarding those standards. Looking into the village mixed use overlay zone, one concern we did have was the heights on the planned centered signs. The overlay states that the maximum height from the base can be 50 feet, and the sign itself can exceed 45 feet from the average grade of Mountain View corridor. What they're proposed here is the signs are slightly over that 50 feet, and their average as well is above that 45-foot maximum. There was some question regarding the wording, I guess, the context of the actual VMU overlay, which is here, where it just states that the sign center shall not exceed 50 feet from the base of the sign and 45 feet above the average elevation. In my staff report, I reflected that my measurement was coming from the base, the actual bottom of the sign. Speaking with Mike Malloy, the planning director, and with Blake, I can't remember his last name for some reason, Blake Thomas, the community development director, just get a little clearer interpretation of what they were trying to accomplish there with that wording. And from what we understand is we're believing that 50-foot base measurement is actually from the top of the base. So I think I can write on here, maybe, drawing tools. Not. So I think there's a pointer on here. Well, so if you look at the base, so the base there, which is in the tan color, we'd assume that the sign measurement would go from the top of that base to the top of the sign, could not exceed 50 feet. That was kind of our interpretation at that point. The limiting factor would be the 45 feet height above average grade, so that would limit them regardless. So if they built a 20-foot base and put a 5-foot sign, they'd still have to complete that 40-foot average. And what they're trying to achieve with that average is trying to maintain a sight line that's kind of equivalent to what you see with the Zion signs that are there already. As far as the monument signs go, like I said, their maximum square footage is 75 square feet. They're under that requirement. They do not have any regulations on sign height. Per the VMU overlay, it just states that if it's not written in that overlay zone, then refer back to the city's ordinance regarding those other requirements. Again, the ground signs, they meet their requirements. They're well under their maximums there as well. This is just going over the city ordinance regarding monument signs. It just states they can't be any taller than 6 feet, which they're showing, I think they're 6'1" I think, at the most, or 1/8 of an inch, depending on what elevation you look at. There's also a provision that states that electronic signs cannot be within 500 feet of a residential use. At this time, there's no residential uses that are adjacent to those monument signs. Going from there, staff does recommend approval with the following conditions. You guys have any additional questions for me or the applicant?
I only have one question. So the 500 feet, is there any zones that are zoned for residential within 500 feet that have not been started?
So across the street, on the east side of the development here, this is an MU2 zone, so it does have a component of a residential use in it. The direction I received, our interpretation was that it's stating a residential use. At this time, it is zoned for residential use, but there's not a residential use on the property. I guess that's something you can use at your own discretion there.
Sheldon, do you have the map that shows where the site signs are, the tall ones?
Yeah. Oops. Here. The locations are just marked out here. They're kind of small. And this did go through a DRC review, and they are none of them are located within a vision triangle. And I think Chris's concern is with 2D, I believe. Is that?
Yeah, so it'd be 2D would be the only one. So if there's a residential within 500 feet, the question is if it would comply.
You're talking
Right.
2D, not the ones on Mountain View, but the one
No, the ones on
Academy
Mountain View.
Parkway.
The ones on Mountain View are fine. The only question with Mountain View is if they comply with the height, according to what we think.
Would there be a retaining wall, like a masonry wall on the other side? Or
Of Mountain View?
no, just Academy Parkway, like
I think by the time they get down there, they're at grade with Academy. Maybe
Yeah,
I'm wrong.
That's going to be open.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be a retaining wall off of
not
Academy.
retaining, just like
Screen?
if screening on the other side if that's.
So are you referring along Mountain View corridor? Is that what you're referring along? Or?
No, he's talking about
No,
Academy
just
Parkway.
Parkway.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to put anything there.
Yeah, the site is elevated, so I believe there's actually, those walls are retained along Academy Parkway.
They'll want it open into the commercial, right?
I would think so.
Okay. All right. Anything else for Sheldon? All right. Is the applicant here? Charlie? Is there anything more you would like to add than what's already been? Come up to the front if you'd like to add a little bit more. State your name as well for us, please.
Yeah, my name is Jeff Krantz, Krantz, and I'm with Yesco. And so I'm just, if I can answer any questions you have about the package, I'm here to do that.
Any concerns with the recommendations that the staff has?
No,
had?
we're
With that, you're
happy
okay
to
happy
abide by the items that were discussed, and I don't think the height from the base is going to be an issue, and so I think it's been very fair, and we're fine to abide by these terms.
All right. Any questions for Jeff? All right. Thank you. Well, you have a seat. All right. With that, I'll go ahead and entertain any other discussion from the Planning Commission or entertain a motion.
Daryl, do you have a question?
Daryl.
He is
He's
looking
pondering
intense
over
right
there.
now.
He is.
So our current standards are 50-foot max height, and they're proposing 60-foot. Is that 10 extra feet of,
Well, they would have to reduce that
yeah,
as a part of the requirement.
yeah. Where else in the city, Mike, do we have signs like this? The one by the soccer.
Right, and that's primarily it, right? It's just the Real Zions Bank Stadium.
That one's 70. They showed.
Yeah.
Right, the example they showed here.
Commissioner Fenn, just for your information, and I know you were not on the commission when we reviewed and recommended approval, and the city council adopted this zoning overlay. One of the things we asked the property owner and Yesco to consider is look at the marketplace. We were interested in a proposed plan that was consistent with what we were seeing in our adjoining cities. And that's what they have proposed. So we're going to be very similar in height and scale to what you see at like Mountain View Village in Riverton and other places along the Mountain View corridor. So when we reviewed that and saw that they weren't asking for anything that was kind of in excess of what is typically being done within the marketplace, I think that was what helped the Planning Commission to feel comfortable with the overlay, and the City Council ultimately adopted. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, can I clarify?
I'm good.
That's same question.
Sure.
Yeah, I actually went out there with my project manager, and we took transit out there and figured out the grade drop that we have on that first sign that we want to put in on the development for Academy Village where it is now, on that 50-footer. And from where we're going to be putting the sign, it was like 33 feet for the southbound and 19 feet for the northbound. So we're in really essentially a 26-foot hole average there. The spirit of those things that you see in the ordinance, like Sheldon mentioned, there was a little bit of, the verbiage was a little funny, and really what it was you're trying to say nobody gets over 45 above the average grade, and it's really put in there to help it if you're in a hole, the additional verbiage, but it was kind of confusing the way it was done. But either way, we're not really flirting with it. We're not trying to do the maximum. A sign, if we go 50 feet above the base, we're only losing about a couple of feet from what the drawing you see. Yeah. So I think it's going to be fine. And there's less of a grade drop on the southern sign that will come later. So I think doing both signs at essentially, 50 feet above the base, as Sheldon clarified, is going to be fine with us. And it should be, it's not maximizing it, but it's going to be reasonable for readability.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And I mean, I don't have any problems with how this is. I do have a couple concerns with how it's written for if there are additional signs that go in later in other spots, because it's 50 feet from the base and leaves it up to where there's a lot of discretion on where the base is.
Could be.
And so I know the 45 feet helps with that, but it's still, and so I'm okay with how it looks and what it will be with where it's located. So.
My concern on it, now that he brought that up, my concern is if you said you're only 19 feet, 16 feet above Mountain View at one point. Can you clarify?
Yeah, so where we would actually put the sign on their property, so we can't project over their property, so where the sign has to be back in, down
Towards
by the
Mountain View.
leaves, on top of their little retaining wall, and where we would have to project, how far we would have to be back from the Mountain View corridor, that is about 19, the base, the very, very bottom of our sign is 19 feet below the northbound, where the rubber hits the road.
19 feet below that.
And then, yeah, but on the southern, or on the southbound traffic, it's closer to 33 feet. And we took it out and did a transit, so the average ends up being 26 feet. The way it's worded is the average road grade of Mountain View corridor. And right now, on that first sign we want to put in, it's 26 feet below. But we've got a bigger base because of that grade change in slope. So going 50 feet above the base is going to be fine. But
So 50 feet, we get you 24, 25 feet
I mean,
above.
that's just not going to be very high.
we've got a basically an
above
eight and a half foot base because of, it's a big slope right there. It's a big concrete base, and so if we go 50 feet above that, we're going to be, that's going to be fine.
Okay.
It'll,
Yeah, you'll still be 25 feet above. Because northbound is a lot, yeah. Southbound, yeah, you'll see the sign, but you got a pretty good horizontal offset from that too. Okay? Anything else?
If you're okay, and if he's okay with it, I don't see.
I like
The applicant's
I like the example with the Real Salt Lake, so it shows us sort of in comparison to the other sign, and we all know how those look. And then you have to think they're eventually going to have the freeway in between the two frontage roads, and so I think it matches up with where it's located and the development next to it. So I really don't have any concerns with it. I mean, the only other concern is, do we have an issue with the sign on the east side that is digital and it could potentially be within 500 feet of residential? I think that's the only question, because that is something we do not want to have happen. And it is a mixed use area, so it is a question of where the residential will be or won't be. And so.
And is it, my thought is, don't want to say it this way, but almost buyer beware. You know, the sign will be there before
It's like
those
low profile
properties.
too.
yeah, that was, if I could mention, I was one involved on the Zions Bank Training Center, and the same question came up and was of concern. But usually when we see in the ordinance something about this distance between a residence, again, the spirit of what a code would say is that they don't want to have somebody who's already there be surprised when a sign goes up and they can see it out of their yard. And that's not the case. It wasn't the case then, it's not the case now that someone would be surprised by a sign going up after they built their house or lived there. So the way the code's written is there 500 feet distance from any residences that are there now? And we meet that criteria.
Yeah.
So, no
And
one
I
would be
understand that
surprised.
part. I understand that very well. My concern is just quality of life in general. So if residential units do go in that area, they're going to have a blinking bright sign that'll be across from their house. And so
Yeah.
I understand buyer beware. I do. I think you can interpret the ordinance potentially both ways if you like. And so it's just really what this body looks at and how they view it, unfortunately.
I would like to say your ordinance is well-written, though.
Yeah.
In all the dimming controls and things like that, to try to keep no flashing, no blinking, no live video. Nobody wants any of that. We don't want it either. We just want to be able to convey messages. So it's, and the programming that we've done on the signs out of Science Bank, tried to be good neighbor. You know, we don't want to have anything like that.
Sure.
Okay.
So.
We'll let you take a seat so we can have some discussion up here about it some more. Thank you.
So thinking back to what we had previously approved in regards to the sign, do you remember, or could you pull that up maybe?
As far as
The ordinance for the signs? Because didn't we talk about just some of the light pollution that comes with these types of signs? And
Are you talking about the discussion we had when we were discussing electronic signs? Or
Yes,
not
I think-
necessarily this site, but electronic
Yes.
signs in
Yeah, in
general?
general.
And there was requirements for, you know, at a certain time of night, you'd have to have it shut off.
Dimmer,
and-
as
Right.
and
and
dimmer,
then it's
and-
potentially
yeah.
shut off and different things like
Yeah.
that. And so
I feel like we addressed all of the things that we're kind of talking about. So as long as,
I think it's just the 500 feet. I think I don't really have any concerns for anything else. It's
Okay.
just a question of the intent of the ordinance. Is it 500 feet from where any residential homes will ever be, or is it from 500 feet from a residential home today?
Yeah,
that's
and
the
I
question.
apologize. Chase showed the code. It's you want to read that section
So
again?
this is for the VMU overlay. I
Yes.
was looking at the wrong section. I was
Yeah.
looking at the sports and entertainment overlay. So for the VMU overlay, each planned center sign shall not be located within 150 feet of a planned or existing residential unit dwelling.
Okay, so it's 150 feet.
Yeah.
Okay, and how far are we from the zone that will potentially be residential?
Just that
Site
eastern
plan,
side.
I think, showed that.
Oh, like
Yeah.
where the cross-section of the road is?
Yeah, because it's got to be, it might actually be okay even, because the road's probably, 60 feet there already.
Oh, yeah.
And so it may be okay, that's just
Yeah.
what I want to see.
Parkway's probably 85.
That's the only thing that I want to try to
That's
understand, because if it's 150 feet versus 500 feet, then we're probably okay.
We're compliant.
And so, okay,
we
as
are.
long as we are, then I'm good with it. That was the only question I had with how it was written.
Any other questions, comments? I'll entertain a motion then.
I'll make a motion to approve item 3.1 with staff's 5 conditions.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Heather and a second by Chris. We'll ask for a vote. Lauren,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Brody,
Yes.
Darrell,
Yes.
and Heather.
Yes.
That motion passes. Thank you very much. All right, we'll move on to item 3.2, a request for approval of a conditional use for the Smartypants Preschool. Talia, I think you've got, yes, welcome.
All right. So as mentioned, this is a application for a conditional use for a preschool. And this is an existing preschool located at 4736 West Plainfield Road. It has been in business since about 2015, and the applicant did receive a business license and went through that proper approval. But it came to our attention that there were a couple code violations within this preschool, such as additional employees. There are some parking issues, which Providence Hall is close to this location, and there's been parking issues with that as well. So it could be or not be from the preschool. There were also more than 2 sessions per day. And on the approval letter that the applicant had received, the time was set for 1:30 to 3:30 p.m., and that has since grown and changed. And just a note, when this was approved back in 2015, our code allowed for 12 kids or children per session. Now our code only allows 8. And as soon as we reached out to the applicant, she has been working with us to come into compliance and to fix these issues. Here's just a vicinity map to kind of see where that is at. So with this new application details, the applicant is proposing 2 sessions per day, and we'd like to keep that flexible so she can change that as the years go by. 8 children per session. She has this preschool in her family room basement, and no employees, and parking. Obviously, with a preschool, there's drop-off, and those cars are not parked there for long, if at all, but parking in driveway as needed. As you know, with conditional use, we consider these other aspects when approving home occupations such as this. And with the proposed application and keeping those aspects of the code, such as the limited number of children and the parking issues, there should be no issues. As mentioned, this is already existing. It is a home first, and that is in harmony with the existing development, and doesn't cause issues such as odors and dust. So if those parts of the code are followed, then there should be no additional issues. So staff recommends approval of this conditional use for the Smartypants preschool located at 4736 West Plainfield Road.
All right, any questions?
I have a question for Chase. So since it was already approved, wouldn't she be grandfathered in?
Or is it a state change? That's what I wondered.
So an amendment under, I'm going to have to talk really loud. Under an amendment, under our city code, an amendment to a conditional use is processed as an original application for a conditional use.
Okay.
Does that answer the question?
And typically, we have this sort of match up according to what the state or county standard is. Is that the case, that it went from 12 to 8 for that reason? Because I thought for some reason, I vaguely remember something like that.
We talked about it in the work meeting.
Yeah.
We talked about
Okay.
that's why it's 8 now, is because above 8, they have to have a second person per state.
Yeah.
So that's why it says no employees. So the no employees limits it to 8. So that's
Okay. That's what I thought. I was just trying to remember. All right, that answers
Okay.
that.
All right.
Is there a way to pull up the actual, because I know we have a big aerial shot. Is there, because I noticed it was on a 0.16 acres, a way to pull up actually the neighborhood a little more closely?
Maybe.
I'll send you the packet. I've got it.
Yeah, because that's what I thought.
Yeah, I think it's in the.
Then, typically these don't come back unless it was a complaint that was issued to the city. Is that what occurred?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you. We'll go ahead and, yes, so yeah, I was going to turn some time over to Angie. Go ahead and come forward. If you have anything more you'd like to add, come forward, please. Yes, you have that opportunity.
Well, first, thanks. As she said, I've been in business for 6 years. In that time, there has been no complaints. There was a complaint issued on August 24th. We are across the street, the next street from Providence Hall. So that's, the elementary's here and we're right there. So we get a ton of Providence Hall traffic. The complaint was August 24th. We had not been in session for 3 months. So the complaint came in, Foothills bus pickup is there on our street. Providence Hall traffic is on our street. We weren't there. There were no kids, there were no employees. So the complaint came in about us, saying it was us, but it wasn't us. So in the other 6 years, there has not been a single complaint. And I have had a neighbor come to me, hey, they parked in front of my mailbox, please address that. We addressed it immediately, it was done. So whenever we have had a neighbor come to us, it has been addressed, it has been fixed, and we deal with that immediately. As far as the compliance goes, it was a lack of knowledge on my part, and I do admit, I did not know, I did not go back to the initial paperwork to look and see I could not have an employee. But as my business grew and I had 12 students, which when I applied, I thought I was allowed, there was a need. When you have 12 kids in a classroom, you need a second set of eyes, well, even with 8 kids, for my safety, for their safety. It is a huge safety issue. I have cameras in my classroom because you live in the same society I do. And I want to make sure that I'm safe and those kids are safe. And that's why the second came in. And I do believe down the road that would be something to look into. But I also want to let you know that as soon as these issues were brought to my attention, I had to let 2 people go in this day and age. Oh, sorry. And that was hard. I did it because I believe in, following what I'm supposed to be. I dropped 10 families. Sorry. And that was hard. And there's not preschools for those kids. And I've had parents come to me and just, what can you give me? And I'll try at home. Sorry, this means a lot to me. But I just want you to know that I have done everything. I've done everything that I've been asked to do. So, thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your time. Any other discussion? I think we talked a little bit about this in the work session. Heather, you want to go ahead? I know you had a.
Yeah,
go ahead.
so for me, I know that there's a great need for childcare, for preschools, and kind of what the applicant is saying is you do have to have more eyes on the kids. But I think that, this was something that I'd like staff to revisit and just make sure that we're doing what we can to support the community needs of childcare and preschool. And I think it's frustrating having her come back. Like, we've approved her for 12 and now we're only saying 8. And I was just trying to think back to different times we've had conditional use. And I was thinking of a duplex that was grandfathered in. You guys remember that?
Main Street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there an exception or?
My guess is no. Chase, we can't allow an exception to that grandfather that in, right?
So this was and again, my understanding is that this was a change in state procedure about home occupations with regard to. Do you know where that is off the top of your head, Sheldon or Talia?
Yeah, I remember having a training on this a while back, because I remember the 12 went to 8 because of a state requirement, not because of a city requirement.
Yeah.
And so it was
Well,
not really an option.
Is
for
it-
us.
our hands are tied because the city ordinance says we can't have any other employee in the home. And the state says you can't have more than 8 without an additional employee. So
Yeah.
what has to happen, we could still comply with the state, but the city would have to change to allow an additional employee. To allow that additional.
I think
an
what's happened
ordinance
here,
change.
That
I
would
think
be an
there's an
ordinance
ordinance
change.
that was put in that had some unintended consequences right now. And I think that's why,
Yeah.
what I would recommend, and I recommend, based on where you live, I think Councilmember Shields is your council member. I would reach out to Steve Shields and just ask that he start the process, because they're saying, our hands are tied, unfortunately. We
The planning
completely
commission
empathize
can.
with you.
Yeah.
The
But-
planning commission can initiate a text amendment.
Oh, we can? We don't have to?
can.
Yes.
Well, then we're going
to initiate that.
to initiate that for you, because we agree with what you're doing. It's the 2 deep, I think, is very critical at a preschool. I think that's critical even, so I think we've got at least, I think that for preschool, it may not be in everyone, but I think at least a preschool where they do need 2 deep, I think that's a safety thing for the city. I think legally we could be, if we're not allowing 1 employee, I think you'll lose every preschool. I think eventually you look at other organizations that have been hurt by not having 2 deep. leadership, if you will. So yes, Michael, can we put that in your lap to initiate a
Of course,
text
yeah.
amendment then?
And remember, there is the other side of the coin. There are those who are saying, well, what about the intensity? Is that too much for a neighborhood? So you'll have to wrestle
Well, and
through
what
that.
is this, what is the state code on that
And I guess
for
the
a
question
second?
is,
But the idea is, do you have to allow 12?
well, I think the question is, and this is what, like my opinion is, I don't think it should be more than 8. But I do think you should be allowed to have an employee based in this situation. And so that's me personally. I don't think it should be switched to 12 because when you're that close to your neighbors, and this would be allowed in any neighborhood in our city pretty much, you're having literally 12 cars come in a 30-minute span, which is really a 5-minute span. They're all dropping them off at the exact same time. And so they just comes through, and it's not a very good neighborhood experience when you have too many. That's why, for me personally, I don't like the idea of increasing it over 8. And so,
But I think it's, under the direction of the Planning Commission, I think it's worthy of our time to revisit state code, revisit this issue. Maybe there's some ways to mitigate, the impacts if somebody asks for more than 8. Or maybe after all said and done and commission and council weighs in on this issue, maybe it is 8. I don't know, but we'll study it and
Or maybe
we'll
there's
do
more
this.
sessions that we allow. That's the other thing
See,
that
that's where I
say.
struggle, because I think, especially in this case, I think in this case, she's a victim of this nearby school that's allowing hundreds of people to drop off in probably a similar area. We're telling her she can't do 12. I don't think the issue is her preschool. I think it's that area has been impacted by the schools so much over there, just the traffic and that. And I think it's probably overlapping into neighborhoods now where they're filling that. And I don't, like I said, I'm sorry, you look on social media, there is a need for preschools in the city. People are, so I get the concerns of a neighborhood perhaps too, so I get that. But we're talking 4 drop-offs a day. That's 4 10-minute sessions.
Or more.
4.
Yeah.
So another one to consider too when looking at this would, excuse me, for me it'd be preschool, childcare, and speech therapy.
but the question is
specifically with this?
I guess I look at it from the perspective of we're going into everything that's allowed in the house when we do this. To dance, to anything piano, to anything else music, and it goes into everything at this point. And when you're talking about allowing 12 drop-offs in a cul-de-sac, because that's in essence, we have to look at all the scenarios, or in a townhome neighborhood, or in we're allowing this in everything if we open this door. And so that's what we have to consider when we go through this process.
Is there a way to
can you narrow it?
narrow it and just have it
There is.
specifically in regards to
Absolutely.
these
Certain zones,
small
We'll look
sections?
at it. The umbrella term is home group instruction, but maybe we can have a more finite, list or something. I don't know. We'll
And I'm
study
not trying to just cater it to one person that's here. I think there are certain needs in the city that I think are being underserved right now.
I do believe you need to have 2 individuals for a lot of different things. And so.
Well, for preschool, daycare, I would see it being different because it's like a longer amount of time. I don't know if, we say 3 sessions because typically they're there for like 2 hours, right? So you could have 3 sessions.
But again, the state regulates that
Yeah.
so much that I
Anything
think we
do
could
would
look
just
to
be-
the state code in regards to
Well, I
that
think that's
part.
what came back to us.
Yeah.
Why it became 8 was because of the state code.
Yeah.
And so.
Well, but back to the issue of if you can segregate between a piano teacher and a daycare, maybe our code needs to adjust to incorporate that so that we, in
But
the
I think
future, this
about like
discussion-
what are they? The Let's Play Music, where those are only 30 minutes or an hour, and they can literally.
But
they
they're
can
under
do
the
12
same
and
umbrella
3 and
if we can
everything else.
break them out.
They're the same as a preschool.
Right.
They are. It's just we're a music preschool versus a preschool. They can view it very much the same way. And
So then it comes down to categorizing it and,
Finding it.
yeah.
and how many categories are there?
Yeah. Sheldon's got some.
I was gonna say, we dug up that code. It's part of their licensing requirements. So it's under R 381-100. It just states that the provider shall ensure that there are at least 2 caregivers present when there is only one group of children on premise and a group that has more than 8 children.
Okay.
So I think we've got, thank you. I think, right, I think we understand we want to do a text discussion. We want to look at this. But what's before us now is this
Yeah,
particular.
we don't need to hash it out right now, but
Yeah, exactly.
let's get it coming before us.
Yeah.
We can
That's my
talk
point.
about it again.
Yep, we can talk about it again. So any further discussion on this item? Then I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve item 3.2, approval of a conditional use for the Smartypants preschool at 4736 Plainfield Road.
Go ahead.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion by Lauren and a second by Brody. We'll go ahead and call for a vote. Heather?
Yes.
Daryl?
Yes.
Brody?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
And Lauren?
Yes.
Thank you. That item passes.
Thank you,
All right, thank you so much.
Thanks for your
We
service.
yeah, we
Yeah, thank you
appreciate
for what you
you're
do.
doing.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to item 3.3, a request for approval for a lot line adjustment. Talia, I think you're up again.
All right. Yeah, so this is a proposed lot line adjustment at about 6412 West, 6408 West, 131st South Street. So the story behind these, there's 2 homes. They're both rented out by Bach Rentals, and they're wanting to sell these 2 properties. And right now, you can kind of see it in this picture. There's this shared access easement where both tenants park on. And as they're selling these properties, they kind of want to resolve any future parking issues and make sure each lot has their own parking spaces. So this requires a lot line adjustment and a new driveway access. So here are a few more pictures to kind of get an idea. This paved asphalt area is part of that easement. This is the property off to the, I guess to the right, to the east. And here's a vicinity map to kind of see where that's at. And a zoning map. This is located in the R115 zone. Here's the existing plat. You can see that, I don't know if I can draw on this or not, that shared access easement right there. And the applicant is proposing to just move that lot line a little bit. And that parking area that's there right now would go to that southeast lot. And the west lot would put in a new driveway and go through that process a little bit later down the line, but that's their solution to that. So with these are the requirements found in the code within this zone, and it's meeting, the lot sizes aren't changing much, the lot widths aren't changing at all. And they meet the setbacks. There's one setback on the side of this house that is closer to the road, but this road was expanded at one point, and so it's not an issue now. With the proposed changes, it's not changing any of those setbacks that were already there before. Yeah, and so we recommend the approval of this proposed lot line adjustment.
Right, thank you.
And so I forgot to mention, but the applicant is online with us.
Okay, very good. Any questions for Talia before we turn it over to the applicant? Nope. All right. So the applicant, Brandon, I believe, is online. If you'd like to add any more information to the discussion and information that's been provided already. Are you there? There you are. Yep, we got you. Go ahead.
What's the timetable on when you're going to add the new driveway for I guess, the second plot?
Those homes are for sale right now. Wonder if we could do it, like, tie it to the transfer.
Okay.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you. I do have one question in regards to the access. I mean, I guess the city's all in, they're okay, it's meeting all the requirements for engineering and whatnot, and you don't have to run. We got all night, man.
Got excited here.
Yeah, it was well far enough away from the intersection to not be a problem. We did look at that, so.
Okay, I assume so. I just want to make sure that, yeah, that's been looked at. Perfect.
Can we escrow, like, I just want to make sure it gets done, right?
I mean, so the one house technically will have no parking except for on street, and obviously that's not in compliance with what our standard is for a new home to be built. So I guess the question is there a way, or how does that work? Maybe Michael can shed some insight to us. I mean, we technically are having a lot line adjustment to a home that will have no driveway. I mean, what would be the proper process? Because technically that would not be in compliance with us allowing a new home to be built. And so,
We do allow, though, shared access, for example.
but the shared
or-
access will be gone at this point.
Right,
we'd
right.
be
I'm just
getting
saying
rid of
that.
And because right now it's in compliance because it's a shared access, but it will no longer be in compliance once that's taken away with the lot line adjustment.
I'm showing it, this
Right?
is showing a 20-foot, there's actually a driveway there. We don't have, it's not a garage or anything, but
So
there
is
is
it-
a driveway there in looking at this.
That's the new proposed, right?
sounds like
This is the-
not a
oops.
driveway.
No, there is. There's your curb cut, and then they got a 20-foot,
Maybe Talia should
yeah, there it
come up.
is, right there.
Maybe we should have Talia come up and
So that's what they're.
answer that. She's been studying this a little closer.
Because that's what was confused me. It sounded like there would be no driveway. There's a shared
That's what
access
it
right
is
now.
right
That's
now.
it.
Yeah, sorry, you're asking about the
Oh,
the
yeah.
Looks
easy.
like they have the
No, I
drive.
thought you were saying that.
Is
was
it,
gonna be better or something.
No, this is what's being proposed. Sorry, go ahead.
Is the driveway back far enough away from the corner?
Yeah, that's what I.
That's what
was
engineer
Yeah.
confirmed.
Like
Yeah.
for the intersection?
Yeah, so this is all engineering, but Josh has stated that that's far enough away, and that's something they haven't applied for yet. This is just kind of to show that there will be a parking space for this property as well. They will
What
fix
they're
that.
saying is where it'll be. It's not there right now. Is that what
No, it's not there right now. It's
Yeah.
The timing of it, yeah. Gotcha. Fair enough.
Yeah.
As a condition of approval?
Yep, condition of.
Condition of approval. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, that's like a bond or something, or escrow to make sure it gets done before they sell the property, or.
Well, and I want to make sure that whoever, well, I don't know if we can do that or
Well,
not,
if they
but
don't-
hopefully people are aware of what's happening.
If they sell it without the lot, I mean, without the driveway, then the lot line it's a condition.
Yeah.
Then it didn't happen.
Yep.
And so, I mean, that makes a problem, doesn't it, Michael?
Yes, yeah. So we
Yeah.
would definitely want to make sure we have that as I think it's a good condition.
Yeah.
Chase is
'Kay.
contemplating over there. Any thoughts?
Making sure I understand everything.
Okay.
Well, that makes
I could see the wheels.
They own both properties, correct?
They own both.
And they were both platted as part of the same subdivision, correct?
yeah.
With a shared drive right now.
Yep.
So under our current city ordinance, an exchange of title for properties that, again, I'm just going through it all here really quick. I'm just processing, and I'm sure Talia's gone through this.
I'm just looking at from the perspective of if we make it contingent upon the new driveway, it means the lot line adjustment technically isn't, legally didn't occur until the driveway's put in. But as soon as that's put in, the lot line adjustment would be,
Right.
it's a conditional thing.
Is that correct?
Is that
Philip?
correct? Is that,
I mean, they're going to amend the plat which means they're gonna have the plat recorded prior to development of the
But not if it's
driveway.
conditional, they can't.
But the plat will already be recorded.
Yeah, so I'm wondering how that goes.
So maybe bond, the construction
Yeah.
bond.
Yeah, to bond it so that it's in like escrow,
Yeah.
just to make sure it gets done.
We got the meeting of the minds over there. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, we were just conferring that whereas the applicant has opted to do this as a plat amendment, then, yeah, this condition that has been contemplated would be appropriate.
Okay.
Yeah.
They could have, and I'm sure they're aware of this, have done this by exchange of title, which doesn't come to the planning commission. It's approved by the community development director. And that's the process I was looking at and wondering why we're here and not there. And I didn't have that information that Mike just filled me in on. So-
Okay.
I suppose,
So your
though,
condition of approval
Right on.
is appropriate.
there would be nothing that prohibits him from constructing the driveway now and then platting the amendment.
Absolutely.
Yeah, especially
could-
since he does.
Probably
own both.
recommended for the buyer to know that
Yes.
it's going to happen.
Make it a sellable lot.
Yeah.
Obviously, if we're not willing to move the lot line, there's no need for the second
Yeah.
drive approach, right?
Exactly.
So,
I don't have an issue with
Yeah.
the
Conditional.
lot line adjustment. The issue's with the driveway. And the only way that's a viable lot is to have a driveway. So if the overall owner is willing to put the driveway in now and then plat the amendment, I'm good.
yeah. And this is a preliminary approval, and so there'll be a final review. So basically, between preliminary and recording, we would make sure that we have this driveway, permitted for construction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. We'll go ahead and entertain a motion then. Sounds like we're ready.
Gary, want to take a shot at it?
I do. I recommend request 3.3 approval of the lot line adjustment at 6412 West and 6408 West, 131 South, be approved subject to development and construction of the access driveway for Lot 1A, or Lot,
Lot one, yeah.
Lot 1.
Lot one.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Daryl and a second by Chris. Go ahead and call for a vote. Lauren?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Brody?
Yes.
Daryl?
Yes.
And Heather?
Yes.
Thank you. That passes. All right. Brandon, thank you so much for being with us tonight. All right, we'll move on to our legislative items at this time. Both of these items are up for public hearing. So first, we'll jump to item 4.1, a request for recommendation to amend the Harriman City zoning map for the Olympia land development. Go ahead, Michael.
Okay.
Thank you.
This, of course, is another element of the city's efforts to study the potential annexation of approximately 939 acres for Olympia. And what is before you tonight is a zoning map amendment that is conditioned upon the council acting on the annexation petition. Obviously, if the annexation petition fails, this recommendation, whatever it is, positive or negative, also is moot or fails. As the commission has been briefed on before, at the time of annexation, the council by state code is required to assign a zoning district to whatever property is being annexed. Recently, the Planning Commission made a recommendation to the City Council, and the council adopted a new zoning tool, a new zoning designation, the large master plan community zone, the MPC zone. Again, I included in your packet as an exhibit an ordinance showing you that that council or that ordinance has been approved and is now in place. So once that tool or that text has been adopted by the City Council, now the applicant is able to request that is the zoning type that they would like the council to designate upon annexation. So we're required to have a hearing on this. Again, the recommendation consistent with the Planning Commission's and Council's previous action is to, or at least what staff is recommending to the Planning Commission, that you forward a positive recommendation to the City Council on this rezone. As mentioned, this is up for a public hearing, and I'll be happy to answer any questions for the council or planning commission at this time. I did want to make a mention that this boundary, this area description includes all properties within this annexation boundary. When we apply these zoning districts, we include, you know, all public and private rights of way, and so yeah, it's for the entire area within this annexation.
So even though the Olympia Hills development isn't 939, this is greater than that, right?
Yeah, this is the annexation, yeah, the overall annexation request. Yep.
Okay, any questions for Michael?
I just wanted to add one thing if I could, Chair. And that is that the zoning aspects of this annexation are included in the design guidelines. The permitted, the conditional uses, the place types, which are our subzones, those are all included in the design guidelines. It's different than what you would generally see with a rezone, where that language comes in as a text amendment. This is, in and of itself, an amendment to the city's code. It's just formatted a little bit differently. So it is something you've seen before in the design guidelines. So if you're looking to try to find where that is, it's something you have seen before, again, located in the design guidelines of the master development agreement.
Right. And technically, as Chase and I were talking about, this is a specific subzone, and it's going to be the Olympia MPC, right? Because that subzone will only be applied to this property. However, as we talked about when we discussed the creation of this new zoning tool, it is possible for another developer or property owner to come to the city and request that that MPC zone be applied somewhere else. But in the process of applying that zone, then they also would negotiate a new subzone that is specific to that project. So in this case, it would be the MPC zone with the specific, obviously, the subzone for Olympia.
All right.
And the MDA attached on here is the current one that was approved by
That was the
City
one
Council.
at the time of publication. Yeah, that was the last draft that we had available.
There will be an updated one posted tonight with the city council's packet for the meeting on the 22nd. However, the zoning elements are unchanged by all of that.
Okay. I'm just, okay.
Anything else for Michael? Nope. Is the applicant here? Like to add anything more?
Mr. Chairman,
Please?
members of the Planning
Yes.
Commission, no, not much, actually.
Okay.
Lauren was at the city council meeting until, when did we leave last night?
11, yeah.
6, 11, something like that, 6 hours or something.
6 hours.
City council's been very, very careful. There's been a bunch of changes to the development agreement since you saw it last. I can promise you that every single change that has been made to the development agreement is, shall we say, more favorable to the city and has been negotiated by the city very hard and left some blood on the table on my client's side. So we hope that tonight is a very routine, you're going to just say yes like you did before, and we'll get to the city council in a couple weeks and we'll be done. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. But we've worked really, really, really hard on this, and I think that it's going to be a very, very great project for the city, and we're hoping that we get a favorable vote from you and from the city council.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate your time. As mentioned, this is on for a public hearing, so I will go ahead and open the public hearing at this time. I don't know if we received any comments online, Jackie. Nothing's come through. Okay. And everybody else here is already spoken, so I will go ahead and close the public hearing then at this point. Any further discussion from the commission on this item?
I mean, I hate the word formality, but I do believe it's just kind of a formality. It's just part of the process.
Yep.
So I just,
Yeah, it's the zone.
unless anybody has objections, I'm ready to make a motion.
Can I add one thing?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I misspoke when I said that nothing has changed. Last night, there was just the one change of limiting, one of the requests and the discussions between the council and the development team was that west of 70, what was that? 73 is what we're calling it, 7,300. No, it was 7,800, because 70.
We've
7,800.
I like 7,300. Let's
Yeah,
go 73.
west of 7,800, regardless of the place type that's designated on the land use master plan, they cannot exceed 20 units, 20 gross units per acre. So, and the intent behind that was that the city council wanted to limit them saving up a bunch of units and then just dumping them on the west part of the project at the end of build out. And so the compromise there was that regardless of the place type, even if it's the village center place type or the town center place type, which allowed in excess of 20 units an acre, for that area, for that overlay, the West Bench overlay is what we're calling it, they cannot add more than 20 units an acre, gross units per acre, sorry. So that was the only, I think, zoning-related change to the development agreement and the design guidelines that you've seen. Did I get that, capture that? We just worked on this language this morning, which is why we're...
I think there's actually one more zoning type change, and that's a requirement of certain amounts of commercial within a certain areas of certain key intersections. And that was highly desired by the city council and highly negotiated, and at least 3 members of the council seem to be very happy with the commitment to reserving space and protecting commercial. And also some other public amenities, like hopefully a public performing arts theater or a job-creating building. So all those were requested by the council, and we assented to all of them.
Thank you.
Minus a few pints of blood.
Yeah.
Chris, did you trying to find something
I'm
here?
trying to remember on this one zoning, because I do remember I did not get a vote on this one. And I had one question on it, and it was the process of the approval, because for some reason I remember there was a different process of approval for things that go through this particular zone. And I wanted I couldn't remember it, and I'm trying to find it to read it one last time.
We were initially contemplating.
In this particular
Oh.
zone. There's
Like more
You mean in
different
this tool,
process
using
in
this
tool, in
approval
overlay
process?
Zone that we had talked about a while back, there was a different process approval on something. And I was trying to remember exactly how it was written.
It was an independent, it was what was called an
The
independent
IRC, yeah, the
review.
Well, I know
IRC.
the IRC and the MDA. I'm
That's
not talking
gone.
about
The
the MDA.
IRC is no longer.
Yeah, not the MDA, the zone.
We're not talking the
Zoning.
MDA.
Yeah, the
This
MDA,
is-
I don't, yeah, we're good with that.
It's the
wasn't MDA I had a
zoning.
question, it was the zoning.
There's
I
some
wanted
text
to
within the
double check.
zoning record.
I wanted to make sure they didn't conflict with what we had just got changed with the council with the MDA. Because I vaguely remember there was something in this zone that talked about the process of approval and how that changed. And I wanted to make sure I remember how that was written.
I wasn't aware of that, if there was one.
So I can go through the actual ordinance if you'd like, just quickly.
Yeah.
Is that where you're referencing?
Say again?
The ordinance itself?
Yeah, when we went through this zoning, I remember there was a different process in this zone that allowed the developers to do something a little bit different, and I wanted to remember how that was written, and I haven't found it yet.
Well, because what we have here is the MDA and the design guidelines. I don't think we have that
I don't think
ordinance.
it's
We
in
don't have that ordinance text. The
It's one
zoning.
of your attachments.
It is one of the attachments?
Yeah, I'm not finding it fast enough. I was trying to look on my phone, and it's really small. I usually have my iPad. I did not bring it today.
Here.
See, there's process for applying, so I thought it was going to be in here.
So I found the adopted ordinance and its process for applying standard of approval. Is that, do
That's what we're looking at here.
you want me to read through that? Or you're looking at it?
Reading it right now.
Okay.
On page 252 of the packet, if
Yeah,
you're
because
looking at it.
with how that's written, I don't have any problems with it. It's fine. I was just trying to remember there was something that I felt like changed the process that they had to go through in order to get approval on things.
The intent was to mirror the original land use procedures that are already in place, right, with planning commission consideration and recommendation to the city council. And I think we captured that.
It did go to the city council after, so.
So under the application standards, the proposed name of this zone or subzone, which is
I don't see,
Olympia.
I don't see what I thought was in there, so I
Yeah,
think.
the maps.
Probably me. I probably led you astray, Commissioner Berber.
Yeah, no, I think it's okay because what I remember vaguely is with the MDA in place, it circumvents them needing to come back for any approvals on anything again. And I thought there was something written in this.
Very last section, administration and implementation of subzone. It is the intent of the city that after the policy considerations by the city council in adopting the proposed subzone, applying that subzone to the property and entering into the master development agreement, then any implementation of the subzone or the master development agreement is administrative in nature and not legislative. And that's governed in greater detail within the development agreement, right? That's part of the IRC that we talked about that's now been changed by the city council.
Yeah, so it is administrative, so it goes to the planning, but then would not have to go legislative and go back to the council is what they're saying.
Unless otherwise dictated within the MDA.
Okay, because I'm just trying to remember, because I know occasionally they'll come back and maybe want a zone change in one area or something with a change of it as they go farther along, but that would have to go through the whole process again.
Come back to you guys, yep, whole process.
Okay, that's
again.
probably that may have been it. I'm
Yep.
good. I'm good. I just wanted to double check
yeah.
that I didn't miss that.
I do think it would be, according to that ordinance, it would be good to specifically state that this is for the Olympia subzone. I had, in my motion, the language I put before you was just for the MPC zone, but we should be specific that this is for the Olympia subzone.
Okay.
And, corresponding draft master development agreements, which you've already made a recommendation on before, so.
Open and closed it. Yep, done with public hearing, so.
Okay.
All right.
We're good now.
Are we ready for Lauren to make a motion? He was ready to go half hour ago. Just kidding. Go ahead.
Good now. I'm good now.
Did we want the conditions in there? Was there anything we needed to state then, Michael? Do we need to state anything there?
He said just tie it.
Just
to
tie
the
it
video.
to, okay. Make a motion to recommend approval to the city council, item 4.1, recommendation to amend the Harriman City zoning map for 939.3 acres located at approximately 126 south, 6800 west from the PC planned community zone to the MPC large master planned community zone for Olympia land,
Right. And,
tied to the Olympia MDA
yes, and the annexation.
and the annexation petition.
Right.
Okay.
Got a motion by Lauren.
Second.
Second by Chris. We'll ask for a vote. Chris?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Sorry, Brody? Yes. Daryl?
Yes.
And Heather?
Yes.
All right, that
Have a good night.
recommendation for approval
Thanks,
is
Bruce.
passed. Very good. Oh, Michael, you're on this one as well. Item 4.2, recommendation of approval to amend 1029 regarding provisions for use of shipping containers.
I actually thought I'd pawn this off on Clint and see if he would be more successful with you this time. But he couldn't be here tonight, and he's listening in. But so we went through and listened to our last conversation before you and some of the direction that we had received from the commission. And we're making a number of changes to this proposal. It's been advertised as a public hearing, so we will open the public hearing. We've done another hearing, as you know, on this already. So you have the option of making a motion or a recommendation on this tonight. I won't go through some of these precedent images that we've talked about previously, although I was jealous of Talia's children's photographs and her pictures, but then I thought, I do have a swimming pool in mind, though. So, but anyway, okay, so what we focused on were some of those changes, and overall what we heard is, let's scale this down a little bit. Potentially, it sounds like we're of the opinion that a shipping container potentially has more impact, because of the context and fitting into a residential neighborhood than a traditional, kind of a conventional accessory structure. Previously, we had standards just saying that the size of those shipping containers is based on how much room do you have on your land and what amount of that land could be used for a conventional accessory structure. The other issue that was talked about is matching or being compatible architecturally with the home. So let's just focus in a little bit on these changes and specifically about the size of each container. You'll notice that as the properties get smaller, so we start off with properties that are larger than 1 acre, you can have that classic kind of full-length shipping container that you see sometimes on railroad cars or on the back of semis. This is the maximum length that you can typically see shipped. 42 feet long, 13 and a half feet wide by 10 feet tall. So you could have one of those if you're an acre or larger than an acre. And B, all agricultural and residential zone properties larger or equal to 1/2 acre. Now we're scaling this down. 30 feet in length is kind of that next step down in the length of these units. Same height, same width. And then when you get to properties less than 1/2 acre, but greater than 1/4, now we're 20 foot. Now it's a 20-foot long container. And then if you're under 1/4, now it's basically a pod. So those pods that you see sometimes dropped onto a driveway, now it's 15 feet in length. So this is more restrictive than what we typically would require for a regular accessory structure. We currently do require an accessory structure that is visible from the street, the front of that accessory structure, to match the home. As you know, the state is no longer allowing us outside of a plan development or master development agreement. We're really limited on materials and design of those homes for new construction, but we can still require that an accessory structure be complementary, or in our term, we're saying match the existing home. And that seemed to be the direction of the Planning Commission last time, was that we still want to have a metal container match the home in its materials. We're not saying what kind of materials, we're just saying to match the home. And we saw some images like this, that kind of express that. It seems like in reusing these, we do see people who are willing to kind of reskin the home. And there seems to be some cost-saving elements generally in doing this, but it's when you're putting on a roof that matches the home, then that roof structure becomes a little more costly. And we asked you specifically if in matching the home, can we exclude the roof? And it was your direction, at least at that time, just in discussion format, that you would not suggest that we have a roof component that would be compatible with the home. And so that's the same. So we're not requiring that you alter the roof to a pitch or a gable or something like that. So that's, this item number B about being matching with street-facing sides. We are still requiring that there'd be paint, that it'd be free from rust, that you would have to have a building permit for placement, for permanent structures, a temporary structure for a temporary use can be allowed. And you see that pretty common. There's a lot of contractors that are using these temporarily on job sites. So we would continue to allow that. There's also discussion about how to show this, the permitted and conditional uses in the land use table. So we amended that for you. These are the options we've talked about in the past. I think it seems like you've been giving us certain directions. So I don't know if you want to revisit any of these options and talk about them. But I think we've listened to the commission. We've made the adjustments you gave us last time, and we're asking that you consider making a motion to approve. You, again, have the option to table if there's further adjustments you want to make to the draft, or again, you can also forward a recommendation to deny if you feel like this is just not something we really want to entertain as a city. You can use these. It's just that you would have to reskin it and put a roof structure over it to have it be compatible with your existing home. And again, you lose all the economics of trying to reuse a metal container when you have to do that.
Perfect. Thank you, Michael. Any questions?
Michael, maybe I'll ask you this before we...
Yeah, we'll go to public hearing.
Yeah, go.
Okay.
Yeah, either way.
Oh, yeah, I'll come back.
Yeah. All right. We'll go ahead and open the public hearing at this time. Have we received nothing online? Anybody here? We're all city staff here. Very good. We'll go ahead and close the public hearing then. Anything more? Looks like Mike wants to talk some more. Go ahead. Or are you just waiting for more questions from me?
Just didn't know if you
All
had any questions.
Do you want to go
Go
back
ahead,
to
Lauren.
that previous?
The options page?
Do you want to go to this?
Options
Oh, options, sorry.
Yeah, just wanted
Yeah,
to
that's what I was.
Uh,
It's the second to last page.
sorry. Going too fast.
Go ahead, Lauren, you had a comment? Well,
No, I was just gonna say on when we talked about the roof structure, like, I guess from what I understood that night, I don't care about it being gabled and trussed. but
Right.
I would like the material to carry over to the top, like some of the paneling that showed. Because I think some of this, you're gonna see it from above. I think a lot of times you do see, I would like to see that material carried above.
This one, as you
Yeah,
can
like
see,
that.
this has like a graveled roof.
And that's something like that. I don't want the
A
top
treated
left.
roof.
I don't want the top left painted still, just the old.
Well,
So I don't know how to make sure
But we're
that's
doing the
addressed.
so
size.
this is the opinion I have. If somebody does this, they're going to put a nice roof on it. If somebody's going to use it as just a storage container, you're just going to get the metal, and it might be painted.
And I guess
And
that's,
so that's sort of, I'm not as concerned about that part.
Yeah.
Because if they're going to spend an extra $50,000 to make their container super nice, I think they're going to spend an extra couple thousand on the roof. I just think it's going to happen if they spend that much to make it, because it's not cheap to make it look like that.
Well, we don't
one.
want to, we don't necessarily need to put a different requirement on the roof than on the sides.
Yeah.
no, and I'm not saying, that's what I'm
Right.
saying. I think it needs to match. I
Right,
think the top
exactly.
needs to also.
I think I should paint
I do
it,
think we need to
right?
require
Paint
something
it,
on the
paint
top,
it.
not just
Yeah.
saying, just to make sure it just doesn't left.
I think if it's painted, it's going to be fine, but we require the whole structure to be painted.
Yeah.
Is that?
And no
Yes.
rust, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're still thinking?
He is in deep thought. He wants a roof.
No, I don't want a roof. I'm just making sure that the language in
Well, if
there.
you go to
It's
the
all
draft
covered.
ordinance changes, I don't know, it's the fourth to last. Go down a little bit
And maybe it's
further.
in, it's in there, and we're covered.
Keep going.
I just could see some, having.
One more.
And
Yep,
you're
that
right,
one.
most people probably will.
There's your exterior treatments.
Yeah. I don't think they're going to spend 50,000 on the outside and then not make the roof look nice still, if it's visible.
You wouldn't think.
I did hear recently that the cost of these containers has gone up. I don't know why. I don't know what's happening in
It'll still go down though. We take more than we give in this country with shipping.
I don't think anybody's manufacturing these here.
So,
And again, we are limiting the size of these, even smaller than what you could potentially have
And I'm
for
okay
a
with
regular accessory structure. To
I
try and
do-
limit that impact, right?
the options at least. I do think it needs to be a conditional use if it's going to be a living space. I think it needs to come back. And I
Yeah.
also think if they use it as a living space, not storage, it probably needs to require additional exterior building materials to increase compatibility with residential design standards. I do believe those two options you put on there are relevant.
Yeah.
And so,
And where this is a new ordinance, it's not uncommon for us to live with it for a while, see how it works, make adjustments if it's not working.
and is it easier to put more of them as conditional to start with and then to make them
Sure.
permitted after we figure that out a little more?
Yeah.
Because that way we have more eyeballs on it and different thoughts and making sure it looks good.
Another thing we can do, which is allowed by the ordinance, is if they do become somewhat routine, but you still want to treat it as a conditional use, you can give instruction to staff to an administrative review of that conditional use, subject to standards.
I like what you did.
So just out of curiosity, just give me a scenario as we're looking at this one right here. I have a shipping container located at a park. Where would it fall in this line if that were to ever happen?
A blue one, like a light blue.
So
our
would that be?
parks- This is interesting in that we don't have an institutional zone type or civic zone. So our parks are often an A zone or an R zone. Yeah,
Okay, so
and this is something that
A1
we may be adjusting following the adoption of the general plan, because in our general plan land use, we are actually recommending that we separate those civic uses out into a new zoning designation. But we've
So
got to get the,
I'm just curious,
Yeah.
if we have that zone, right now it's 8.25 to A1, and that's permitted, so it's okay? Is that sort of what we're looking at?
Subject to the standards.
Okay.
Yes.
I was just, if it ever happened, wondered where it would be.
Yeah.
If it ever happened.
Anyone need a COVID test?
I don't know. I don't want to be a stick in the mud, but I'm still struggling with the whole concept. I'm concerned these containers could go awry with us. We don't know what the future of these are going to be like, whether people are actually going to do the pretty pictures that we're looking at. I think there could be lots of unintended consequences that we just haven't thought through. I feel bad that we've taken it this far down the road, but I needed to voice my opinion.
The reason I feel comfortable is how many, they're all conditional, right? So if they want to do a living space, we have an opportunity to voice our opinion on each one.
Yeah.
That's where I get comfort versus.
Even the storage.
It may need to be conditional for all of them to start with, until it comes through a couple times and we're like, now let's change it. All of these zones can be permitted.
Well, and notice, and
Standard is now.
I apologize. So that very first line, you'll notice shipping container, agricultural use only
Yeah.
in an ag zone, whereas if you're using it for storage only, conditional.
It's conditional, yeah. then if
And
it's
temporary
temporary,
use,
it's
which
also
is,
permitted.
I think 90 days or 100, I can't remember what the time limit is on that.
The pandemic.
That would be permitted, but
Pandemic were the shipping
yeah.
containers.
You know, I just don't want Harriman to turn into a boxcar city. So,
There are some really cool boxcar cities.
But there are some requirements for these, right? They're being placed on them.
Yeah.
For coming in, there's a lot of conditional use. They've got to come before us.
And it limits how many and sizes on it.
I'm not voting, but I like it.
What if we were to do conditional at least on, like, I don't mind it being permitted in an A5 and an A1. We don't have a lot of those zones left, and that'll be, even the agricultural use.
Yeah.
But even that A25,
What was the?
I mean, a lot of our, yeah, is it gonna be up to, is it gonna be vague? Is it gonna be vague at that on the A25? A lot of our neighborhoods are A25 right now. Is it gonna be vague? So maybe just A25 we make conditional for right now?
But if they're not using it for agricultural purposes.
But that's what I'm saying, but that's, to me, that can be kind of,
Like chickens?
But it is
Like they could have
conditional everywhere
chickens in
else.
their.
It's only permitted
shipping
if it's
container, right?
agricultural use only.
right, but I'm just saying, because somebody come in and say, oh, they
And if
use
there's
it.
an 8.25 and they want to put it in as permitted, but yet they're not going to use it for agricultural, but they can somehow argue.
There's
that
just
it
so many
is.
of our neighborhoods that are A25, and I just worry if
yeah.
somebody
Isn't the code
exaggerating what their agriculture,
What's
just,
the-
to me,
what's-
kind of agriculture, it could be subjective a little bit.
I think you could put conditional on the 8.25.
That's the only one I'm saying, just A25, just because so many of our neighborhoods are A25.
So the footnote on that restriction, and I used
Number one.
legal language, restricted to bona fide agricultural uses on a minimum of 1 acre. I lifted that right out of the city code, bona fide. The applicant shall provide a written statement to the city describing how the container will be used for agricultural purposes. Upon termination of approved use, the shipping container shall be removed from the property within 60 days.
Is that objective?
So it still has to be 1 acre, it said? What was that first
Restricted to bona fide agricultural uses on a minimum of 1 acre. So you're right. If you're in an 8.25 zone and you're trying to claim an agricultural use, you got to be 1 acre.
Then I don't care then, that's fine. then. I'm fine, with that.
That's very well written.
Very well, that's almost like attorney language.
Yeah, did legal
You've been
help
trained
you out
well,
with that
Michael, you've
one?
been trained.
You know, I'll have to tell you, when we first started, I thought this will be interesting because I really didn't think the city would be interested in this concept, to be honest. And at first, it seemed like we had some excitement. And then we kind of got a little more conservative to the point where we have something, but this is a pretty tight tool.
Yeah.
I think you're going to find
We're low
it's so tight, I'm not sure that a lot of people will jump through the hoops and comply.
Right.
But that's okay. I mean, so maybe later on we'll revisit this. If there is a growing demand for it, and maybe it does work, or maybe the market is changing again. Who knows?
It's conditional in most areas. I'm okay with it. And then after a couple months, we see what does and does not come in. I think
Yeah.
we'll have a good gauge on what we do or don't like about it.
And of course, council, we'll see what they do.
I might ask it. We'll see.
All right, any further discussion?
I have none.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve with staff recommendations, and obviously this is a recommendation to the city council for a approval on item 4.2.
I'll second that.
All right, we got a motion by Chris and a second by Brody. We'll call for a vote. Heather?
Yes.
Darrell?
Yes.
You can vote no, it's okay.
Or is it too late?
Too late.
Too late.
We're having a motion. Sorry.
We can talk afterwards.
We can talk. Brody?
Yes.
Darrell? Or sorry, Chris?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
He was going to give you 2 votes. so
I
you can
know,
vote
I was going
both
to
ways.
get two. Sorry, I was going the wrong way on the list. All right, thank you, Michael. Let's see. Well, here you go. Chair and commission comments. Any comment you would like to make, Darrell?
Well, these shipping containers are already allowed. We're just voting on whether to dress them up or not.
They're not allowed.
They're not allowed.
Well, they're allowed, but you have to reskin them essentially to comply
already
with
allowed.
our standards.
So,
Right.
so since they're already here, it made sense to dress them up.
Regulate it, yeah, to kind of regulate it, and, yep.
They're allowed.
Sort of.
I don't like the idea of shipping containers, but I feel like you really addressed like my concerns as far as having the requirement to make them look decent. So I appreciate your work on that. I know that that took a lot of time,
Yeah.
so thank you.
I'm going to put one in the backyard and turn it into a sauna, invite all of you over
Bring
Right.
it. I'm there.
on 100.
Okay, so a comment I wanted to state was just maybe we should have a conversation about allowing lot line adjustments to be decided by staff. Can we do that?
So we currently have that option.
Okay.
Oddly enough, when we explain that option to our applicants, they often still want to come and appear before you because they want to record a plat, which requires signatures from the city, including the planning commission chair. Now, Chase, I haven't researched some of the more recent amendments to state code. If it's possible to have the planning commission chair sign a plat for recording when it hasn't been presented before the planning commission. And I don't want to put you on the spot, but one of the reasons why is that oftentimes when you record a legal description, which we allow, when you go do parcel research, that gobbledygook doesn't really show up. All you end up with the picture, the plat that gets recorded. And yes, you can find in the chain of title a warranty deed or whatever it is, a survey. But a lot of people want the picture, and they want that picture recorded, and they want to be able to sell the they want to have that exhibit. So even though we give them that option, many of them still end up wanting to come before you and get the plat amendment. Yeah.
Sounds similar to the people that go through the process to have their basement done and the people that do it themselves. That's a little bit of the difference, it sounds like. So.
Are we on
I
commission
don't know.
comments? Is that where we're at?
We
Yes,
had the
we're in
same,
commission
I had the same situation in other cities I've worked in, though. Because you have to do a lot of work even to meet the standards of the legal description, and you're almost done, so you might as well almost finish it up and do the plat.
I want to make one more comment,
Go ahead.
if I could. Jackie's falling asleep, but
Is that your comment?
we're early tonight. It's an early night for us, Jackie. This is early for us. No, I just
Keep going.
One, I just want to hats off to Heather again for the service project group she kind of started on Facebook. I would like to revisit again maybe some of those ideas we talked about. I would love to. I know we've kind of let that. We've been so busy. I think we're coming into a lull. I would still like to talk about what we could do as a commission. That project that we've talked about. I don't know if there's still any other ideas.
Before
Yeah.
snow flies?
So, and I forgot to mention this, in 2 weeks, it looks like, or 3 weeks, when we meet again, looks like it might be a work session only. And if you're interested, we're thinking about seeing if we can schedule a field trip and maybe look at either some projects in the city that we can learn from or something nearby.
Nice.
That's relative to some of the work that we are doing right now on the planning commission and staff. So obviously, we'll advance any business items that are appropriate to the next meeting, but right now, it looks like we're probably just work session only next time.
There's some parks that I've driven by, and a good portion of it are just weeds. It would be fun to go past some of those and just talk about what could be done, like, just a bike trail, like a
That's
little,
what,
like,
if you've been to
pump
the,
session or
I talked
something
about
like
that to Wendy. Have you been over the Spoke? Have you guys been over the Spoke and Daybreak?
No, it looks
Go look at the Spoke and Daybreak. It's just, they take some some of their detention basins.
Yeah.
And they've just built basically some dirt pump tracks in there.
Yeah.
And I think you could get our mountain bike community involved. I think you get both the Mountain Ridge mountain biking community and the Harriman High mountain biking. I think you take one of those detention basins with permission from the city.
Yeah.
You get a weekend project on some dirt. Somebody donates some dirt.
Exactly.
I think you have a pump track and a detention basin in one weekend.
north side of Midas Creek already in
Yeah.
some locations.
I think it would be unbelievable.
That's exactly what I was thinking, like just stuff like that where the
That,
detention
you gotta
pond
get
is.
permitted though, if you're in a flood zone, but anyhow.
Yeah.
Within the floodplain. But
That
yeah,
would, that would be
anyway.
fun to go look at
but the-
if we take a field trip over there.
I know.
But I would say if you guys are driving around, a few of the things, like the one I think we got a lot of attention one was we took the weeds out of the sidewalks along Mountain View. A lot of people drove by and saw that happening. So if you guys see that, I mean, that's the kind of stuff in this community. That's the kind of idea we did. You know, if you see that in this community, shoot us. They're all on that text string. Shoot us a text. Say that's an area we'd love to see cleaned up. We'll rally this. I mean, that same group was used to rally to get sandbags. So that's where hats off to Heather. That group was rallied to get sandbags for when the city flooded a few weeks back. So let us know if you see something in your area.
Yeah.
Let us know, and we can rally people, and as a commission, we can
But like that
do
pump
better with
track, that's kind of what I saw. Like I took a picture of one of the parks where a big part where it's probably flooded for a while. It's just tons of weeds and it's not usable, but it's already there
Well, I
to
didn't
be
even
used.
mention if the city doesn't do the fire station over here by our,
That'd be a great location.
nothing else.
Okay.
I
any other
just thought
comments?
of something,
Go ahead,
actually,
Heather.
sorry.
That's okay.
So I've been driving my motorcycle around Harriman a lot, and I've noticed that our intersection, it's right where we just put in the new light on 6400 West. There's so much gravel right there, and it's so dangerous for motorists and cyclists. It's so scary. I've slid out twice now, turning in that intersection. So I'm just wondering, like,
Fourth and 134th?
And Main, 131st.
Harriman, Maine.
Yeah.
Or 131st,
Where they
I
just
meant, yeah.
put in the light.
Yeah, where they just put in the light.
Right by those houses we just looked at.
Yeah.
You know, the other area that's dangerous is Mountain View and Porter Rockwell.
Yes.
That turnaround area up there.
Yes.
There's been a lot of bike slide outs.
I'm just wondering, is there something that we can do to better, so that corner utility area that we have right there, the trucks are coming in and out and it's just pulling out gravel into that intersection. Is there a way that we could better maintain that and have it swept?
Yes, yeah, we can.
Which intersection are you talking about?
6400 West and Harriman, Maine.
It's the same thing that occurs on Mountain View and Porter Rockwell. And right now, that's supposed to be the bike lane going up Mountain View. And so they come around and come back, and that's the area that's always dangerous for them.
Yeah, if they're tracking from a construction site, there are things we can do to have them pay more attention about cleaning up, having
That
a
was more
wash
of my
off.
question with
Well, they have
development.
the rock quarry.
You can get UDOT to take care
Yeah,
of.
yeah.
Well, they have the rock quarry and everything up there by Porter Rockwell, though. That's
I guess
what,
Porter
that's what
Rockwell's
that
city,
one's
though.
happening. Yeah,
Or is
that's
it
all
state?
city.
Porter Rockwell's city, but Mountain View's state.
Okay.
Is it Port Rockville, Bluffdale? Is it still
No,
Harriman?
That's
it's Harriman.
They cut the corners. I know the big
Yeah.
trucks do that. And that asphalt there is just,
Yeah.
it needs to be a mill and field job on that.
Yep.
Okay.
Was it?
Any other comments?
We have future meetings?
All right, we do have some future meetings, so City Council on September 22nd. Right now, it shows 2 meetings on the 29th, but it's going to be just the special
Well,
City
one
Council
should be
meeting.
canceled,
The
right?
one-
And the-
Yeah, the joint City Council Planning Commission meeting will be canceled.
Yeah.
And it will be substituted with just a special City Council meeting. And then on October 7th, my wife's birthday, so I may not be here. Anyhow, Planning Commission meeting, I will probably be here. It's a Thursday.
That's the one you're saying might just be work meeting
And that's the
only
one that
with
may be just a work session. right?
Yes.
Okay, all right. With that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
The city council doesn't want us there for their work meeting, right? Or for their meeting on the 29th?
Is it for the general plan?
That's when,
Open, anybody can go.
Okay.
that is when, I don't know if you've heard that, they will make a decision